Hey everyone, this is Matthew Meade with Keller Williams, Chattahoochee North. This is Mondays with Matt, and today I wanted to discuss closing costs and what they are and how they work. So, traditionally, closing costs are roughly 3% of the price of a home. So, for example, if you're buying a $200,000 house, your closing costs will be around $6,000, give or take. Usually, the buyer ends up paying for their closing costs in the form of cash, and so I would tell you that you should be saving up money for closing costs. Sometimes you can get, or you can negotiate for the seller to pay for some or most or even all of your closing costs in certain situations, but for the most part, buyers usually pay for their closing costs in most transactions. So make sure to set aside some money for those. And so closing costs are essentially fees that you are paying a lender and closing attorneys to process the transaction. And so examples of closing costs from the lender would be a processing fee, underwriting fee, a fee for an appraisal, a fee to pull your credit report. If there are HOA dues that you have to pay or some kind of transfer initiation fees for an HOA, that would be considered a closing cost. And then there's all sorts of taxes that you have to pay. So there's a transfer tax and tangible tax, state of Georgia. So those would be considered items that are closing costs related to your loan. And then on the flip side, with the closing attorneys, you have to pay a settlement fee and a fee for them to pull title on the property. And then also you have to pay for a lender's title insurance policy, which is to protect the lender in case of title defects down the road. And then usually it's encouraged that a buyer would also pay for an owner's title insurance policy to protect themselves for any defects in title down the road. So these are closing costs in a nutshell. I hope that you learned something. And again, they're usually about 3% of the cost of the home, and usually the buyer needs to bring closing costs in the form of cash to the closing table. So thank you so much, and y'all have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.